All right. Welcome, 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 everyone, to another exciting live image critique. This time we have a super special guest. I mean, they're all special, let's be real, but this one is extra special because he is a fellow Magmod ambassador, fellow just badass photographer. He's got a great sense of hair fashion, and he is a WPPI competition judge. I want to welcome Andre Brown onto our live image critique. How you doing, Andre?
Hey, what's going on, guys? How you doing, man?
Yeah, dude, I am doing great. I'm like I was telling you earlier, I am so stoked that you're here. I really try to get guest critiquers on our education platform that I really look up to and I have a lot of respect in the industry for. And you're definitely amongst one of those people. So seriously,
Appreciate
dude,
it.
thank you so much for being here.
Nah, no problem, man. Thank you, man. I appreciate the kind words.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I originally started or learned about you because, when I became a Magmon ambassador, I, I wanted to see, okay, who am I on this list with? Who are some of my peers that, that we can help, to help grow each other and become just better photographers. And I saw you on there, and then I finally met you in person. And I think the biggest thing that really drew me to your work was your incredible attention to detail when it came to group portraits. That was what initially drew me to you, and that's something I feel like, and you know this, that you've won many awards for, and that you're very proficient at. Would you say that's pretty fair? That you're kind of a master at your craft when it comes to group portraits?
I try to be like I'm very meticulous about everything. You guys don't end up seeing a lot of content because I'm like, nope, that sucks, not going out, right? And, but I take this slant on everything that like it has to be like competition worthy, and I know like, I need to stop doing that. I'm trying to stop, but like I might take an image right now that I just think is just fantastic, and in 10 minutes it's crap. Like no one will ever see it. I need to get over that hump. But yeah,
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, for those of our, our viewers right now that don't know who you are, could you paint a little bit of a picture for us and tell the world about, who you are, what you do, and then I also want you to touch up a little bit on the photo conference you have coming up in August.
right. So for those who don't know me, my name is Andre Brown, wedding and portrait photographer based in Atlanta. Ambassador for many brands, of course, Magmod like Sean here, but Westcott and Nanlite, Pick Time, a lot of great companies, Aftershoot, and I've had the pleasure and have been blessed to win quite a number of awards from a number of different organizations in our industry. You can see some of them back here. Then I got some more over there, some more over there, right? But I'm just really passionate about just everything that we do with photography, right? It's very transformative. Like to be able to see something with your eye and then light it in a way that once that picture is captured, it looks completely different. Like that's always something that was very fascinating for me. So when I began my journey into photography, I just wanted it to be a transformative experience for clients as well. I'm big on wall art. So even when I shoot, like that's my goal. I try to create wall art pieces or pieces that, my clients would want to utilize as wall art. I'm also an educator or speak at just about every conference in the business, as long as they'll end up having me. And, even now, like Sean mentioned, I have my own conference coming up here in August 12th through the 14th. This is the Boca Photo Summit that's going to be taking place here in Atlanta, and I'm super excited about it, man.
Yeah, man. I'm so bummed that I can't make it. I was trying to see if there was a way I could fit in my schedule and I can't. But for those of you who are available during that time, absolutely get out to that conference. It's going to be in Atlanta, like Andre
Yeah.
said. It's going to be spectacular.
You should. I'm taking a different slant on conferences, like I was, talking about with Sean prior. I work in the realm of more luxury wedding, luxury portrait, and that sort of thing. So, as putting on a conference, that's my goal is to provide those portfolio building opportunities for you all, the photographers. We were chatting prior, and we were just talking about getting into luxury weddings and like
Right.
you know what's the linchpin to get in? And in my market, it's heavy wedding planner driven. And if you cannot shoot decor, these planners, they will take your head off. They'll tell the clients not to hire you. So you have to be able to know how to give those vendors the type of content that they need to be able to sell their services as well. So even for the conference, I am teaching rather a reception lighting class. I'm decorating a 4,000 square foot ballroom, fully decorated, super luxe, super lush, to not only teach the class but allow the attendees to be able to go in and capture that type of content to be able to add to their portfolios as well. So taking this conference thing up to the next level, guys.
Heck yeah, man. Well, super excited that you're doing this. I can't wait to see what you come up with. I know some of the speakers that you've selected for your conference personally. You have some great choices. So everyone, if you're available on those dates in August, definitely make it out. But for those of you who are new to this, if this is your first time submitting, basically what we are going to do is we are going to look through your photos that you have submitted for critique. Now, one thing I want to warn you is if you are someone that has been, a regular contributor, Andre asked me earlier, he's like, okay, how like real should I be with these critiques? And I said, dude, I want you to pretend like you're in that WPPI judging room, like go all out. So he is going to be critiquing you all on a very high level today. So I hope
Right.
you're all ready. Take everything with a grain of salt, of course. Art
Please
at the
do.
end of the day is subjective. But with that said, Andre definitely does have a lot of professional experience judging these competitions. So I hope you all learn something from it. But at the end, as always, we are going to give away a free canvas print from Pro Prints, who is sponsoring this critique. So make sure you hang around till the end, because if you're not there and I announce you as the winner, you're not going to get it. So with that said, Andre, what do you think? You ready to rock and roll, my dude?
Ready to go, man. Let's make it happen.
Heck yeah. And one final note, as always, I am monitoring the comments on the screen to my right. So if you would like to weigh in, if you would like to ask any questions, please feel free to do so. I will be looking over here towards my screen over here. So
Okay.
let's go ahead and do this. Heck
I
yeah.
was looking on here, but I see it there now, so I can see
Okay.
them.
Right on, dude. Right on. Well, awesome. Okay. So this first photo comes from Heidi Margoski. That's a tough one, but here we go. Let's go ahead and pull this up here. So you know what? To kick things off, why don't you start, Andre, since maternity and this kind of style is really more your vibe, and I'd love to hear what you'd have to say about this image.
I am not seeing it on this screen, so I'm gonna turn. I'm looking here at my phone, guys, because I'm watching the broadcast because I can't see it here for whatever reason. All right, so
Okay, no
don't
worries.
don't shoot me, okay? Um, but I love this image. This is something that is one of the things when it comes to judging an image is impact, right? Impact is one of the things that sets an image apart from another image. Just being able to see it that very first time, and how does it make you feel? And this image definitely has that. Sure, she does ropes, but she's pregnant, right? Like that's very bold to do while you're pregnant. Immediately I'm thinking danger, 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 right? So this definitely stands out to me. um, a couple of things, and if I'm being honest, it's literally just kind of like being nitpicky, right? One thing that I would love to see is maybe some sort of vignette to pull focus into the model a little bit more, right?
Okay.
We do see that burst of light coming from the top, so we recognize that that is a light source, but it's obviously not the main light source, right? Um, so just being able to like kind of focus in on her a little bit more would definitely make her pop off the scene a little bit. And then Yeah, like without being too nitpicky, I can't do it. I'm just gonna. I see one more thing, but I'm actually gonna leave that for you to kind of chime in on. I don't want to hog it all up, right? But
Oh no, it's all good. So do you? Let me ask you a question. Do you think potentially cropping this a little bit differently might bring more attention into the subject, so you're kind of getting rid of some of that negative space, or maybe like cropping it just the bottom and the top, so you have more of like a 16 by 9, or even go in the opposite direction where you crop in the sides, and you're doing more of a vertical portrait oriented photo.
yeah, like I could definitely see this either cropped as a 16 by 9. Initially, I was gonna say, maybe in, square crop, but I also don't want to lose that height that you get, by seeing
Right.
the pieces, hanging down from the bottom. But definitely, a crop could help that, as opposed to just doing that vignette for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like almost if you brought in the photo from the sides, it would even accentuate, that height even more, or that feeling that she is really suspended high. Because you're able to utilize those lead lines a little bit better from these ropes. But to really touch up, or to add to what you said, I honestly don't have too much more, because this is so out of my realm of what I do. My only as speaking from a judging perspective, one of the things I might comment on would be that her back leg, or her right leg, is a little bit more in shadow than
Right.
the left leg. And I don't know if that was an artistic choice or not, but I almost feel like we would really benefit here from getting a little bit of bounce back up on in those shadows, just to show a little
Just
bit more detail in those shadows.
yeah,
That would probably be my only critique, really, from a competition standpoint.
yeah. That was the only other thing that I saw.
Okay.
Like, in just a little bit, like not a lot. Just lift those shadows up just a tad bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Well, cool. Heidi, what an amazing photo. I mean, this is a great way to start off this image critique at such a high level. I would love to see this entered in some competitions. If you haven't already entered it, WPPI would be a great place to start. So thank you so much. Really appreciate you. We'll go ahead and move on to our next photo. This next one comes from regular contributors, comes from Ed Ailman. And this was a branding photo session with a pageant teen, and the author of 48 Laws of Pageantry. Okay, very interesting here. So let's take a look at what we're working with. I'll start. I mean, initially, I mean, it's she's got a nice. It's just a portrait, right? She's got a nice smile. It's very well balanced. It's exposed properly, white balance. Technically, I'm not seeing anything wrong here. If I had to maybe nitpick a little bit, I would like to see a little bit more. A little more direction to our light, a little bit more definition. It's just a borderline flat. It's I would really like to see some shadows here, some soft shadows. So you still have detail, right? But you get a little bit more direction, a little bit more dimensionality with your lighting. Um, that would probably be my biggest critique. But I do want to commend you, uh, Ed. Is you still, when you're shooting a white clothing against a white backdrop, it is very challenging and very easy, I should say, for those colors to get a little muddled. And I think for the most part, you have done a pretty good job. Maybe now that I'm looking a little closer on her left shoulder, I do see a little bit of blending issues here, where you did manually try to looks like edit out the background, or you tried to edit out a sleeve or something, because I do see a little white mark that it wasn't edited properly. But other than that, I think the post production is pretty on point, and the separation between the different tones is good. But besides what I had to say, what do you think, Andre? Anything else?
Yeah. So a couple things. One, it's small, it's minute, right? But look at the
Mm-hmm.
armpit area. We have that natural armpit line, and then
Yes.
there's that other line next to it. That me personally, I would clean that up. There's some blotchiness in the skin tones. You see, like, it looks like she has some tan lines or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
um, the overall skin tone itself, I like warmer images, but the overall skin tones itself in this image is a little orangey,
Okay.
right? Be orangey, or it could be like some magenta in there that could just be balanced out a little bit better. Um, and the last thing for me, the background is obviously white, but it you didn't light the background itself. So if we look at that bottom right hand corner, you
Yep.
see that it has like that color cast or whatever that orange is that's likely spilling onto her skin. So that would have helped brighten the image in terms of it being just a high key image overall, and then just made it a cleaner image ultimately.
Yeah, and when you're doing, when you're shooting against a white background like this, um, because if you're putting additional light on the background, it's very easy for it to blow back into the camera. So when you are taking photos of a subject against a white background, you do need to really make sure that you have that physical separation between your subject and the background, because it's very easy for it to get washed out. So in that regard, it can be very challenging. But just cleaning up that bottom right portion of the image, like Andre said, is really going to help elevate this a little bit more. And I do see a couple areas where you kind of miss the mark on that. One other thing I want to touch up on, Andre, and now I'm looking at the photo more, is the pose. To me, it's almost like it's a little like she's too like cramped in. She's not what's the word I'm looking for? She just feels a little uncomfortable with this pose. Like she's just bringing her arms in a little bit too tight.
Right.
And I feel like maybe if she just loosened up a little bit, maybe dropped a shoulder, opened her arms up a little bit so they're not so tight against her body, it would give the impression that she's feeling a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more open. Would you agree with that, or do you think, are you fine with this pose?
No, 100%. I couldn't really see it before because I had the closed caption going across the front of
Oh,
it, right?
fair enough.
But I just fixed it. But yeah, I mean, she looks like she's pageant, right? But the pose is very guarded. Even though she's smiling, the pose
Guarded.
itself
That's a great word.
is
Yep.
really guarded, right? Versus, something a little bit more soft that, plays to the fact that she's a queen.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Cool. Well, Ed, thank you so much as always for submitting this. I really appreciate you. We're gonna go ahead and move on. This next photo comes from DJ Clark, and some info on this photo. This was at a group shoot. He overcooked it a little bit. I'm assuming he means a little bit intentionally blown out. It wasn't as tack sharp, so he made it in black and white, added some grain to make it look like an old style photo. Shot this at 1/8 of a second at f2.8 ISO 200, with the Sigma 24 to 70 at 34 millimeters. Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. So would you call this like a boudoir photo, or how would you categorize this, Andre?
Boudoir is always tough, right? Because even with like some comp stuff, like when you start to get into the nudity, so to speak, right, we
Mm-hmm.
automatically put it into boudoir. But some things are just, individual portrait, right?
Right.
I submitted an image last night where the model was topless, but in individual portrait, not boudoir specifically.
Right.
Um, so digging in, I mean, he already kind of, led us down a path with some of the main thing that's wrong with this image, which is that it is extremely overexposed. Like
Yes.
there's no coming back. We're losing hair detail. We're losing detail in that hand that's hanging over the banister. There's a lot that could change. Now, I understand the circumstances. You say you shot at a group shoot and all of that stuff, which is fine, but you submitted it, so we gotta talk
Right.
about it. Right?
Absolutely.
We got to talk about it. So, both of the arms being kind of clipped off the way that they are. The one behind the banisters, so it's kind of giving us T-Rex going on one side, and then we completely, kind of chop the arm on the other side. Um, that in itself is just, when we're talking about bad composition overall, on top of it being extremely overexposed.
Why don't you tell
Um,
us how you really feel, Andre?
but it's just one of those things. Like, those are the things that we need to
Right.
be super mindful of. Even like while I'm shooting, I'm correcting. I make a lot of mistakes while I'm shooting, and then I correct, right? But these are also things that I'm looking for as well. So we definitely appreciate you submitting. But yeah, there's some major things going on here.
Yeah, and it's one of those things you find out through trial and error, right? And putting yourselves in these situations where you may not have full control over it is what's going to separate us from amateurs, professionals from amateurs, or professionals from hobbyists, right? And even on a group shoot, when there are things that are out of your control, you have to kind of take a second and pause and say, okay, what can I control? Right. So if in this particular situation, probably what I would have done personally is I would have shot it at a different angle. I would have exposed for the highlight, that the brightest highlight on her face. And what would happen is, yes, you would lose a lot of detail in those shadows, but you could do something really kind of contrasting, really neat, where you're just showing a little bit of detail with those highlights on the side of her face, so coming down in her chest a little bit. You could create something really, kind of really interesting and really creative there. So again, there's a million ways to skin a cat, so they speak. And I recognize, we recognize that you definitely were presented with a challenging situation, but I think it's a very valiant effort, DJ, and please keep on submitting, because this is it was really fun to talk about this image and kind of give everyone an idea of what you could do in the future.
100%. Always keep submitting. Always keep submitting.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, hey, thank you so much, buddy. Really appreciate you submitting. We'll go ahead and move on now. This next photo, okay, here comes from another regular contributor. This is from Scott Tibbles, and this was used a 300-watt strobe and a 24-inch softbox. This I also used a neutral density filter, I'm assuming, because it was according to him, it was bright as fuck on them, and he wanted to lower the ambient light so the light coming from his flash would pop a little bit better. So this is what he came up with, and I'll start here, Scott. There's a couple things that I want to say that you did right. The thing you did right is choosing, to use the that flash to really help fill in those shadows, especially on a bright day. It looks like this was shot pretty much at high noon, because if you're looking at the shadows from the sun, it's definitely close to high noon. So kudos to you for using that light. I think the hand placement, the bend in the knee, those are all good things there. So really good job establishing that connection. Couple things I would do a little differently here. So for starters, when it comes to the pose, I would like to see a little bit more of her face. We're seeing a little bit too much of the back of her neck, a little bit too much of her neck. I would have her turn just slightly clockwise, a bit more, have her bring her chin, have her bring her shoulders towards the camera more, so we can see more of the expression on her face, right? And sometimes I will even tell the couple, like, hey, when you turn towards the camera, you might not be completely looking at your partner, but that's fine. This is for the photo. I want you to see both of your faces. I want to see the expression from both of you. When it comes to post-production, a couple other things I would do as well. The wrinkles on her dress and his pants are kind of driving me a little nuts. And I know, it's a choice whether or not to edit that out. If this was one of 50 photos in a gallery, I would understand that maybe editing all of those photos might take a while. There is some new software like Evoto, for example, that uses AI to actually remove wrinkles, and it does it really quickly now. So there's that. Couple other small adjustments I would make. I would personally clone out that pole on the left, or crop it out. It's really distracting. And also, I would probably remove all those people on the beach in post production too. I find them really distracting as well.
Right.
That's what I would have to say about it. But Andre, I'm gonna let you see if there's anything else you would want to add in. And by the way, here is the behind the scenes shot, the original unedited photo for those of you who want to see it. But yeah, anything else that you would want to add to that, Andre?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it home. Again, great choice with the ND filter, right? Especially if you're not in a situation where you can, pull off hot speed sync and that sort of thing or whatever, right? So definitely great choice in that. Now, Sean hit it nail on the head. You took out one pole, take out the other pole. Get rid of all of those extra people. Back in the day, it would have been super hard. Now, through the magic of generative fill and the remove tool,
Yep.
you can knock a good portion of that out, fairly quickly. I'm curious though, on the actual shoot date, um, Nate, what would it have looked like had you panned and put them on camera left? Like what else is out there? You know what I'm saying? To be able to maybe capture more greenery, capture more sky or whatever the case may be. As well as doing that, maybe if you're 70 to 200, you can pull that crop in, compress them a little bit more and pull that background in a little bit closer and just have them in the cloud. So these are things to consider as well. While you're out there shooting.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, Yeah, I mean, well, Scott, thanks for submitting this though, dude. You always have some really quality stuff, and one thing I personally always love about critiquing your work is you submit photos that you know are good but could be elevated to a little bit more of a further level. So thank you for always choosing the right images. And real quick before we move on, my guess is the reason why he put him on that silver box or whatever is to try to get them closer to that same height level, because if you look, he's quite a bit taller than her, but she's on a step that brings her up almost to his eye level. So I'm assuming that's why he did that, and also maybe to get like more of the sky in the shot too. So that would be my guess as to why he did that. But Scott, thank you so much for submitting. Always appreciate you, my dude. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Okay, this photo comes from another regular contributor. This comes from John Hawking. This was a high school senior portrait session. Captured this with an R5, 200 watt strobe, using a mag sphere on a cheetah stand inside the doorway. What do you think,
You
buddy?
want me to chime in? Okay, cool.
Yeah, go
So
for it.
I like the angles on him, right? Like the sharp angles and stuff going on with like his
Mm-hmm.
legs and his arms, right? Maybe that front arm could have been back a little bit more just to kind of like continue that the hard angles that you have inside of his pose. Um, the only thing that I would say about this image is the light that's in the back, that's being backlit back there. It's a little blue, right? I would take that blue out, but what I would also do is desaturate that stone that's on the outside as well. Like, don't
Mm-hmm.
take it away completely, don't take all of the color away, but desat it just a little bit, to kind of decrease the hard contrast between the two colors. Like, it's, to me, it's like a little too red or too orangey. Sometimes
Okay.
it's like dial it back just a little bit, and you'll see a major improvement in the image.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the concept here though, like to put a light in there, illuminating it, and really creating, accentuating those lines, creating those shapes, creating those lead lines. That symmetry is a really good idea. So super good thinking there, John. To add to what Andre said, maybe a little bit more on the technical side of things. If I were submitting this for like a competition, there was a couple things else I would do. It's probably hard to see it on your screen, but it's very apparent on my screen. Andre, is there's a lot of noise, especially in the shadows. A lot of noise, which I would. That's distracted me a little bit, and I would probably denoise that a little bit, try to remove some of that. Getting really nitpicky here, but on the bottom right, I am seeing a little bit of a shrub, some sort of shrubbery. Yeah, just to kind of continue and play off that symmetry, I would remove that in post production, just to give it that extra level of attention to detail.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's all I would have to say about it, though. I think this is really unique, John, and this to me shows me a level of outside of the box creative thinking. So kudos to you. Really cool. Okay, here we go. Next photo. This comes from, who is this from? Actually, I don't know. David Droke, and let's see what he has to say about this image. Sunset at Dead Horse Park. Yep, I was about to say this looks like Dead Horse. Dead Horse State Park near Moab. I know that because I go out to Moab all the freaking time. And he used a 600-watt strobe with a 4-foot octabox, shot with a Nikon D750, Tamron 24-70, 1/160th of a second f5, 24 millimeters, at ISO 100. So, okay. Let's see here. I'll start since you started last time. I want to commend you, that David, that you've balanced the image very well. The light on the subject is balanced very well with the subject. You still have detail in the shadows in the canyon, so you see detail there. You haven't clipped your highlights in the sun too bright. So really good stuff there. To me, the pose is I think where this photo falls a little short. From a technical standpoint, it's great, right? It's a nice basic wedding portrait. When you're in a scene as dramatic and as beautiful as this, you kind of want to match the pose a little bit to the scenery. So if you were shooting a little bit tighter, right? You're photographing it a little bit tighter, a little bit more focused on the subject, more of like a traditional portrait, then I think the pose would be fine. However, when you're doing something like this, you really want to match the expression to the environment. And to me, it's just a little stiff. I always try to tell people, or my clients, I should say, your hands should always be doing something, right? So his right hand is just kind of hanging out in no man's land. I would have him, maybe put it in his pocket, maybe bring her in closer, show her some emotion, have him grab her cheek, do what I call the prom pose for adults, where he's behind her and he's embracing her a little bit more. Those are some things I would personally do in this situation, but I would love to hear your thoughts on this as well, Andre.
Yeah, the pose is definitely, a big part. Like it's where it fell flat, right? And then on top of, his right hand, his left hand is doing the creepy hand because there's no appendage that it's attached to, right?
Right.
So it's just like the hand from the Addams family, like just kind of sticking out back there, right? So aside from that, post processing. I don't know because again, I'm looking at this on the phone. I saw it earlier, but the knee, there's something on her knee. It's it's yeah. It looks like she had surgery or something going on there, right? And
Mm-hmm.
unless it's a situation where it's like, hey, this is a prosthetic or something like that, clean that stuff up for sure.
Yeah, and then also, then that question comes into mind. Well, should I alter someone based off how they normally look, right? And then you need to, so it becomes like almost like an ethical question, like should I change someone's physical appearance? And I think when you are using flash a lot of times like this, especially when it's very directional flash, it tends to accentuate certain body features, whether it's wrinkles or whether it's eye sockets or something. So it'll flash will generally, because it's a little bit harder than, soft natural light, it's going to accentuate certain things. So maybe instead of completely getting rid of that, maybe just clean it up a little bit, like you said, soften some of those shadows on it so it's not as apparent, but you're still not necessarily changing her body and taking it away what she actually looks like, if that makes sense.
So my thing with that, um, if I'm taking a portrait that's gonna
Mm,
end up being some sort of wall art portrait, then I'm changing it to a degree. I'm not shaping anybody's body, like
yeah,
things like that, right? But any blemish, I'm getting rid of blemishes in final works of art, things that will hang on the wall and that
sure.
sort of thing, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I get what you're saying. So cool. Well, dude, David, what a cool location. Thanks for sharing this, man. This is awesome. Okay, so this next photo, I believe this is from David. Yep, this is Daddy Dave, as he calls it as himself. This is from David Bowles. Um, no info on this image. So yeah, why don't you start here, Andre?
I like this image, David. I I have very few critiques about this image. Um, the pose could be a little bit different, right? When posing in general, we don't want the hands necessarily to be doing the exact same thing, right? This is
Hmm.
almost dun, 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 right? It's very close to that, right? The only thing in this situation, I would have just had him like he's buttoning or unbuttoning the jacket. That would soften the hands a little bit. That's almost, in my opinion, almost the only time where it's acceptable to have the hands doing the same thing. And they're not technically doing the same thing because they're usually like, kind of like this, right? Now, um, strong pose, you use the light that's there. I'm good with that. What would have been cool, and I'm not sure what the environment is like, but what would have been cool was to have him come out further, you back up as well, and then split that with the sky and the top of that structure
Mm,
so you get more of the sky. One, it would have made him more prominent in the frame just a little bit. It would maybe take his height in the frame a little bit past that first little arch that's over his head. And then you have that line going across the top for the structure and the
yeah,
blue sky. That would have been really cool.
yeah. I completely agree. I think you do have quite a bit of that negative space, and I'm sure that was an stylistic choice from him. But you're almost kind of traveling very far until you get to that sky. So maybe just that small adjustment would have made a very big difference, for sure. The completely agree with you on the hands. The only thing really that I would have to add from a competition perspective is you do have some very strong highlights on his forehead and his cheekbone. I don't know if there's a way maybe to tone that down a little bit. It also could be my monitor. I mean, my monitor is pretty accurate, but does look a little bit blown out on my end. And then you have that very harsh shadow on his chest right below his top button there. I would, if this was for a competition, I'd probably clean that up, make that a little bit softer. But otherwise, David, I like the processing that you've done on this. Not my obviously processing style of preference, but it does fall in line with your style, and I think you've done a very good job maintaining that consistency. So, what a cool photo! I do like the tones. I love the whole vibe of this. So, good stuff, David. Thank you for submitting. Um, let's go ahead and move on now. Ooh, okay. This next one is I want you to roast this one especially hard, Andre. Okay, because this photo comes from the cheetah boy himself, Charles Wynn, and he drove up a mountain, posed the couple. Yes, yeah,
Oh,
exactly. And
when he was on here.
he used a 20-inch softbox, and he used a light stand. Oh, he used a Manfrotto light stand for this image.
What
No,
burn?
I'm just kidding. He used a cheetah stand, of course.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Wow. So I guess it's my turn to start. So I'll start here. Um, let me. Okay, I'm trying to figure out what I want to talk about first. And I think I am gonna start. I'm gonna start just by grilling you a little bit here, Charles, because there's actually a lot I like about this photo. But I'm gonna start with I'm gonna make it a little harder on you. I'm gonna start with the pose, and that is she feels a little uncomfortable with this pose. She's holding her belly, right? And it's almost like, maybe she got like, I don't want to say it like too harshly, but it looks like almost she got gut punched, right? And she's like clenching her stomach, and it's a little unflattering. So what I would have her do is actually bring her elbows back, bring her hands back, have her join her hands on top of his, so she's a little bit more engaged with him, as opposed to like being caught, by surprise, or something like that. And then to kind of touch a little bit on the technical stuff, we do have that specularity on both of their heads. You kind of have those shiny bright highlights on both of their foreheads, on her cheek. That's something I would personally clean up a little bit in post-production, just to make it a little bit softer. I'm gonna let you touch up on the rest of what you feel like could be done better here, Andre. But Charles, one thing I want to say though, and compliment you on, is finding this incredible location and how you've managed to compose it and frame them and incorporate them so well in this. So kudos to you for that. But yeah, what do you think, my dude?
Charles, buddy, you are my man, Charles. But I'm coming at you in this one.
Oh boy, here we go.
All right, cool. So the very first thing we see that the couple is being lit from the right. All of the light in the scene is coming from the left, right? That's the predominant source of light in the scene. So I would automatically flip them and then light them from that direction, so that one, it appears that they're being lit by that light. The contrast of light, especially because it's not used in a situation where it's like a hair light, right? Or a separation light, because we're not really getting much separation or rim on them from that light. So the contrasts of the light coming from this side and the light coming from the other side, it's weird, it's unnatural, personally.
There aren't two suns.
So there aren't two suns. Two, the color temperature of the light that you put on them is white versus the more warmer tone that's coming from the light that's in the scene. Now, I'll be the first to say I never use corrective gels. Never use corrective gels. I'm too lazy to use corrective gels, right? I just do it in post. I would warm them up a little bit, right, in order to be able to take care of that. And the last thing that I'll really get you on, Sean already talked about the pose, right? She's camera aware. In an environmental portrait like this, and don't get me wrong, I've done it and I look at it like, that shit's crap. I'm not posting it anywhere because I messed up, right?
Mm-hmm.
In an environmental portrait situation like this, her looking at the camera, them looking at the camera just makes no sense. What are we connected to? They're smaller in the frame, right? So had she been looking back over the shoulder towards him, connecting with him while he's connecting with her, then that would have made this pose stronger outside of everything else that Sean already discussed.
Yeah, absolutely. And Charles was saying that in Michael Bay's world there would be two light sources. So
man.
Yeah, no, I mean thanks for weighing in on that, Andre. But seriously, Charles, what an awesome photo. Yeah,
right.
Really. What an awesome photo, dude. Thank you for submitting this. Just clean up those things we talked about. I think post-production wise, you'd have a stronger image. And then next time you light it and you shoot it, keep those things in mind. So good stuff. Okay, let's go ahead and move on here. Let's see. This next photo actually comes from an anonymous photographer, and it's a group portrait. So, Andre, why don't you? This is kind of your deal. So why don't you jump in and roast this photo, please?
Oh man, why, oh why, oh why? Whoever's portrait this is, I am terribly sorry. I'm terribly sorry. Okay. One, we have a portrait where not everybody's looking at the camera. My guy in the back, in the behind the lady in the green dress, he's not looking at the camera. The dog is looking at the camera and he's not looking at the camera, right? Um one for one, it's not balanced, right? We have the five guys in the back, we have the four ladies in the front. As you can see, like, you have the guy on the left who's directly behind, and then the guy on the far right that's kind of hanging behind. Make them shift over
Hmm.
a little. Put the groom in the middle, and then create that balance. It would almost give you, kind of triangle thing. I'm not looking for a triangle, but I saw that as
Right.
I right. Um, Two, the poses. The groom has no hand. He got chopped off. It's probably a hook back there, right?
Hmm.
You know, the ladies, these arms, especially the young lady on the left side with the arm just kind of like sloping out, like it's like you wanted them to be regal and sexy, and they just couldn't find it, right?
Very
They
good
couldn't
point.
find it, or you couldn't take them there. Keep in mind that if you see a group photo that I've taken, I pose every single person in that photo, even if I have to sit down and show them exactly what it is that I want them to do. And if they're not doing it to my liking, I replace them with somebody else, right? Swap them out. Some people can get in a pose more comfortably than somebody else, right? So, maybe stagger them, don't have all of the guys standing, make some of the ladies stand, and kind of create that balance in it, right?
Sure.
um that asymmetrical balance. If you look at everything that I shoot group pose wise, it's very asymmetrical. I am anal about symmetry, but I love asymmetry. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm
Yeah, because if you're gonna be asymmetrical, you need to make it very intentional, and
right.
there has to be thought put into it for sure. It needs to look like it was intentional, not an accident.
Right. And it's just there's gonna have that ebb and flow. So people are like, oh, talls to the middle and shorts to the side. No, that's stupid, right? Like that's dumb. You know, balance it out so that you're not looking at, this tallest to smallest thing, or, men on this side, women on this side. Just make it
Right.
a balanced image overall, right?
Hmm.
So we missed the marks on the ladies in the poses, flat arms, flat hands, things of that nature. Cross the legs over to give them shape. None of the ladies want to look boxy. My lady here on the right hand side, she's kind of like sloped back in her chair, which is only going to make the stomach protrude more. She's a lady. I know she don't want that. Hell, I don't want that. You know what I'm saying? I don't want that at all. So do things to create shape. Even especially my lady here in the blue. She's got the slit out. I would have taken that leg, thrown it over, get a little thigh meat out, right? Add a little bit of sexy to the photo. Have her lean on it a little bit, maybe lean not in the other direction, but just not as
Sure.
hard in the direction that she's in. And feel free to, go to my website, go to my Instagram and follow. But no, go there and look at some of the group poses and see the balance and the shapes and stuff that I do there to be able to create interest inside of the photo. Other thing, this is very nitpicky, but this is how anal I am.
Go
Guy
for
who
it.
can't guy who can't look at the camera, his bow tie is jacked up. Like straighten that joint out, man. Straighten
Good
it out.
call. Good
You
call.
know, these are things that I'm looking for when I'm taking a photograph.
Yeah, and I
And
mean, yeah, no, absolutely. And as photographers, it's our job to be looking out for these small details because at the end of the day, we have a responsibility to help make our clients look and feel their best.
right,
Yeah.
100%.
So one thing I want to point out is this is actually my photo.
Ah.
And I picked this one specifically because I knew there were things wrong with it, and I knew there was a lot that could be improved, and I wanted to be roasted by the great Andre Brown. So I super appreciate you not holding back at all, because everything that you said is 100% valid, and I could not agree more.
For sure. Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I wanted a group portrait to be roasted by the master. So thank you, man. I seriously, I really appreciate that. That is some
Oh,
awesome
man.
advice. And what's funny is when I do these group portraits like that, I always actually mix and match them. This is the only time I've ever done this. Believe it or not, is have like the women in the front and the men, or vice versa. I usually have them on different levels to create that that's a little bit more of that separation, a little bit more of just that that difference. So sweet. Well, thanks, dude.
It's cool, bro.
Anything else that I suck at?
Oh man, you crazy, man. No, other than that, like you're good, bro. Other than that, you're good to go. Awesome location. I need to move up there for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty much. I do like all my gigs up here. Definitely does not get old. That's for sure.
Nice.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move on. Thank you, anonymous photographer, for submitting that. Uh, this next photo comes from Brian Green. Let's see. Basically, the only details he gave on this was he used fill flash against the bright morning sun.
Field flash, bright morning sun.
Yeah. Okay. So I see. Just taking a look here. So yeah, let me talk about a couple things here from a technical perspective. It almost looks like there's a little bit of lack of detail. Like it looks like this was cropped in super tight, and it might be hard to see here on the smaller screen, but on my big screen, I'm just seeing some weird, especially like some weird bokeh patterns in the background, almost like it's like either compressed or it was just super super cropped super in. So that is something that I'm kind of seeing initially off the bat. Besides that, couple things here. There is a very big discrepancy between the highlights and the shadows. So you have this really bright, distracting highlight on like the horse, right above the horse's eye, on the nose, on the model's hair, the top of her hat, and then the light on her face, while it's even, which is good, it doesn't match the rest of the photo. So what's happening is, as the viewer, your eye is kind of going all over the place, right? You're not really sure necessarily where to look. So I would have personally probably rotated them a little bit so the sun was a little bit more at their back, so you do get a little bit more of that even light consistently across the board. I'm not really I'll be honest with you, Brian, I'm not really sure. I'm not seeing where the fill flash comes in, because I don't think it's really exposing any part of the image, if we're being honest with you. And if you did use some, it's not a lot, because I'm not seeing like any catch lights in her eyes. I'm not really seeing any indication of light, of additional light use. Yeah. What do you feel the same?
Yeah, I mean, you said flash, and I'm like, where is it? Because all I see is sun, right? So her face is definitely underexposed, as compared to the rest of the frame, and the crop. Bad place to crop, right? Because it then, ironically, where you cropped on her is the same place that's cropped on Seabiscuit here. So we lose the magnitude of a horse, right? But then we're cropped almost at her waist, which is like one of those no crop areas. So definitely fix that next time.
Okay. Gotcha. Anything else post production you think that would benefit from?
Post production. Tackle the highlights. There's a lot of strays everywhere.
Yeah.
Stray hairs on her, stray hairs on the horse. And I know you're like, oh well, it's a horse. It's hard to control. When I tell you, I'm meticulous with the editing. I am meticulous with the editing. The little white hair piece that's in between the horse's legs, like that stood out. The long chin hair, like there's so many things that could just be cleaned up. We understand it's a wild animal, it didn't get brushed, right? But there are things in there that can be cleaned up. The blemish on her lip, the little piece of hair sticking out from up under her hat, right there. Like I see all of this stuff. The tie from her shirt that's hanging down across her arm, that
Yeah.
could come out. It adds nothing to the photo at all. Um, so yeah, I'll stop there.
No, you're fine. I mean, and this is why you're such a master at your craft is you see these small details and you're so detail oriented. I mean, some of the things like you point, for example, some of the photos you pointed out, my photo, I didn't even really think of in that moment,
Right.
to do right. When I look back in the image, I'm like, oh, that's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. But that's why, we're experienced and just doing this over and over and over again, it helps build that experience so you can recognize these things on the fly and you get better and better. So, but Brian, hey, I thank you so much for consistently contributing to this. You're always constantly improving your craft, and I can see a difference in your work. So keep it up, man. Really, really seriously, keep taking photos, keep submitting photos. This next photo comes from Austin Alvarez. He shot this with a Canon R6 26-inch Geek-Kodo Octobox and a speed light. I can't remember. Did you start last time no? I started. So, why don't you go ahead and weigh in a little bit here on what you think? Do you do quinceañeras? Have you ever shot them?
Nah, I got asked to do a couple, but the price wasn't right, so we didn't make it happen. But I would have liked to, man. Like I like to
Yeah.
those. Hell, I do everything else. I do Indian weddings. I do
Yeah.
Nigerian weddings. It would have been nice to throw that in the mix.
Yeah. No, I have one coming up actually in a few weeks here, and I just did their pre quinceañera portraits in the park, and that was so much fun. They were twins actually,
Oh,
identical twins. Like the only way you could tell them apart is one was like an inch taller than the other.
oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So what do you think about this? I'm curious to hear what you have to say on this pose and stuff.
So let me zoom in here a little bit. So let me start. The the light exposure on the face, I'm good with, right? It's
Okay.
balanced in the room. It makes sense in the room. Um, what I'm where I'm lacking is pose and composition with the hands, and I have to correct my clients on this all the time. Like this thing here, like that's very unnatural. I know everybody wants to do like the soft thing, but there's a difference between this and this, right? So let's correct those in order to make it soft. Now, she's the subject, so her torso could be turned more towards us so we get more exposure,
Mm-hmm.
to her. You got great light on the face. But outside of that, the composition of what's going on inside of the room just doesn't make sense. We got all this negative space here on the floor. There's nothing that's necessarily dynamic in the frame that would require capturing that whole frame outside of her dress. So crop it down and just include more, or just make the focus her in her dress versus the overall environment.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, and I was gonna say, exactly. I was gonna say that I would like to see a little bit more of her torso and just a little bit more of the front of her because we are seeing a little bit too much, in my opinion, profile. So it is. And to address your point, Um, I get Austin's his intention here. You know, it's such a really cool environment, and he wants to show it off. But then there's that question, and there's finding that balance, right? Where yes, it's a cool environment, but is it too busy? Is there too much going on? And I do think that this room is borderline too busy. There is too much going on. So if it were you in this situation, right? Let's put Austin, for example, or let's pretend like we're in Austin's shoes, and the client comes to us and said, "Hey, we want to get a portrait of our daughter here in this room because we love the room." What would you have done differently to make it so you could still incorporate the room, do that environmental portrait, but also make it so it's not so busy like it is right here?
So one thing I'm gonna say this, Austin, but also I understand I'm not in the room. I don't know what other elements are restricting you from doing whatever it is that you need to do. But the very first thing, move furniture, take it out. Like if it doesn't add to your shot, move it. I do that on wedding day. I don't care where I am. Hey, can somebody grab the other side of this couch? I need to move it out of here. Get this chair. Let me move it out of here. If it's not gonna add anything extra to my frame, and there's a place where I can move it out, because sometimes on weddings you can't necessarily move things out. If it can be moved, I will move it, right? Because ultimately, the shot is the shot. Like that bullseye pillow there adds nothing to her and her dress, right?
Good
So
call. Yep.
let's assume that we can move this couch out. Let's assume that those arches in the back, that there's three of them because we can't see. I would have shot her from the front, 16 to 35, 14 to 35. I always keep that stuff in my bag. I lay on the ground a lot. I lay on the ground a lot. I would have done some sort of tilt up, shot with her. If you want to be able to show off that chandelier, frame her in those arches. Again, if those lamps don't fit in your symmetrical background, move them where you need to move them so that it fits your shot. Because if they want that shot, they're not going to be opposed to you moving anything that you need to move to get that shot. Just move it back.
Absolutely. That is phenomenal advice. Good stuff. Good stuff. Cool. Thanks for weighing in, Andre and Austin. I hope you learned a little bit from the master here. Austin is saying, he's commenting live. He's saying half the room was moved behind me, but that couch I couldn't have moved. Okay, so it looks like he did make an attempt to do it, but yeah, I guess there is only so much you can do. So very cool. I'm just reading through some of these comments here. Quinceañeras are crazy. Teenagers are a lot. Someone replied with, "You got that right," or Corey replied with, "You got that right." Nikki roasting me on my group portrait that I submitted as well. Um, yeah, cool. Well, Austin, thank you so much. Really appreciate you submitting this as always. We're almost done, guys. We only got a few more images left tonight. This next photo comes from Bob Younger, a local photographer here in Fort Collins, and he had his key light held by his assistant, an 200-watt strobe with a Magmod XL, the XL Sphere. And he also used a second light to the rear of the model held by her dad while he also tossed the dress. So, okay, so actually that's that was a smart move, Bob. It was to use two lights, one for your subject and one for the dress. That's something I feel like a lot of people don't really think of because, when you have such a large train like that, it's very easy to only get part of the subject in focus or in light. Wow, this is cool. This is really cool. I know exactly where this is. It's 15 minutes from my house.
Nice.
I'm going to start out with one thing that's bothering me a little bit, and I don't know if you feel the same way. So if I'm off base here, let me know, Andre. For me, what's kind of distracting a little bit is all of the light spill on the bushes and that rock to the right of the frame. It takes away from the attention on the subject.
Right. 1,000%.
Okay. Yeah.
1,000%. So like when you like I understand wanting to like that train. And if we get a second, that picture that you use for the header for this, if you can pull that up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or for the one that you use for the our thing, right? My picture. If you can pull that up at some point, that'd be great. So I can give an example because this is almost exactly the same thing. But the the light spill is crazy. Like I hate the puddles of light, right? Use grids as much as humanly possible. I understand dad tossed the dress, right? Um, but and he was holding it. Ideally it would have been light stand lighting her from, as opposed to this side of the frame, the other side of the frame. That way we could let that light trail off into the abyss versus down here on the ground there. You only really need a little bit of light to be able to pull that shadow detail up, which is the same thing that you have going on in the rocks in the front. Like there's no light hitting that, but you're still getting some, shadow detail. That I'll let you go back because you only asked for my input about that. I'll let you go back
No,
and
no, no, no. I love this. Please continue. This is awesome info.
um, you know, pose situation like we were talking about earlier. Turn that torso towards us a little bit more. She's
Okay.
kind of got like the superhero thing going on or whatever. That's cool. It would have been nice to be able to get more of her torso turned towards us so we could see more of her face and not as much of the profile. And I think that yeah, we want to be able to show that the train, but had you panned to the left a little bit, it would have put her on a third. Would have given her better placement on the third to give us more of what's going on in that horizon, which is the money part of the shot. That horizon line leads directly into her, which is lit beautifully. Um, so yeah, be sure you're getting the subjects on those thirds because even at let's say the back eighth of this image, you can't even see the dress anyway, so it doesn't even matter.
Yeah,
Right,
no,
right where that
absolutely.
bush is lit, right? That back eighth of whatever this is, you could have just gotten rid of that completely, still had the same effect, but had more of that horizon on the other side.
Yeah, and you know what I just noticed when I'm looking at it closer? I can see Dad's feet and his leg.
Oh, word.
Yeah,
Oh, oh, that is there.
yeah,
Okay.
and you can see where he cloned him out. And then you can also see on the left side of the frame. Sorry, Bob, we're tearing you apart right now. You can see on the left side of the frame where you actually cloned out the light stand too. So just a little bit more attention to detail on the post production, removing stuff in post. But yeah, you can see his feet. He's wearing like purplish pants. It looks like.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. But dude, but seriously, what a killer shot! Like you have stars. You got like technically I want to pick your brain about how you shot this because you have you have stars and you have amazing color in the sky. So I'm wondering if he used a tripod for this, so he could shoot it at slow shutter so you get those stars, or if it was a composite or what was going on here, because technically that's pretty incredible actually.
So it's three lights in this scene, not just two.
Is it?
It's three lights because if those are dad's feet, there's another light back there lighting up that bush. So there's the light on her, the light that's spotlit on the dress because we see dad's feet, and then there has to be another light hitting that bush that's also hitting that rock as well. Bob, I see you in there. You said it's two? Well, what is so dad is not holding a light as well. He's just
Oh,
tossing.
well, I'm wondering if that light is spill from the key light, and it's just the light stands really high and it's coming down. I don't know though because that wouldn't. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking.
It wouldn't explain the shadow. The light on the bush came from the key light. Okay, cool. He's holding and he's
Yeah,
holding
see,
it.
I was right. Yeah.
So
So
yeah, that almost further proves my point. You didn't need that backlight. So that image that I was asking you to pull up of mine, um, the one in the desert, it's one light, and you can still see all of the detail inside of the back of the dress. You didn't need that extra light adding that spotlight on her dress. You only needed to pull up the details and the shadows, and you would have been fine.
interesting. Interesting. Well, right on, dude. Bob, thanks so much for submitting this because this is a phenomenal portrait, and I bet when the client saw this, she freaked out. Like seriously, what a cool shot. So, cool deal, man. Thank you so much. We'll go ahead and move on. We got three more here. This next photo comes from Sandra Miltenberger. Ooh, I like the bridge. That's cool.
Right.
That's neat. Is that like a tram? Oh, it's like a tram railway. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Um. Do 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 do. Well, let me commend you first, Sandra, by great job like framing them in between, the tramway and the buildings, because I feel like a lot of people in this situation might cut off their heads or something, or have the tramway run through them or the building behind them. So I like how you use the negative space in that sky to frame them. I'm there's something I'm trying to there's something a little bit off with the balance of the image though, and I'm trying to figure out, like, they're too centered in the actual frame itself, right? Like I'm almost feel like compositionally wise we should like pull it down from the top or from the bottom. Well, I'm jumping ahead because I started last time. So what do you think, Andre?
No, you're good. You're spot on. Like I love the leading line with the rail,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But we technically have two because we have two skies, right? Um, so it makes that front part of the image feel like something is missing, especially when you have so much foreground. Like, um, great capture, great use of that leading line, and I almost feel like you either need to straighten it out properly or skew it more so that
Yeah.
the leading line is more dramatic. So now you start to get into like a more Fibonacci versus just a leading line from a rail, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's exactly what it needed for sure. What do you feel about how do you feel about the light? Do you like the light on it? Do you think the balance is pretty good? Do you think it needs more spread on the couple? Do you think it's nice that they're lit just kind of the upper half of their body? Any comments on that?
Yeah, the light on them is hot, right? It could stand to, be down a bit. Um, it is too high and angled because we're not getting that fall off into the legs. However, you may be able to, mask that, go in a Lightroom, radio tool around like her leg and his legs, pull up the shadows. Don't do exposure because exposure is going to make it look weird. Pull the shadows as high as you can get it without it looking like, you know, uh, looking crazy, right? To be able to bring out those details there. And yeah, right, pull that highlight slider down on them a little bit too. Great exposure on the rest of the scene, but your two flashes are both a little hot.
Yeah. I would agree on that. Yeah, really not much more I'd have to add, honestly. I mean, the big thing I think is just leveling that a little bit, maybe changing the crop. Fun pose though too. I love her dress. Really, really cool photo. Maybe the only other thing I would recommend on the pose is, he's a little too stiff, he's a little flat footed. One thing I always try to tell my clients is, hey, like have your feet on different planes, on different levels, right? So maybe have the groom bring his one foot forward a little bit, or point one of his toes out a little bit. You just want it, basically, you're like kind of what we talked about earlier with symmetry. You want a little bit of that asymmetry when it comes to your hand and feet placement. So probably would recommend something a little bit more dynamic with his pose. So, all right, guys, we're almost through here. We got a photo, or this next photo comes from Steve Eaton. And Sandra, as always, thank you for submitting. Really appreciate it. Yeah, Steve Eaton. He shot this just after sunset. Used a flash with a mag sphere to the left of the couple. Okay, so I'm gonna start. Going back to Scott Tibbles' photo, right? One of the biggest things that I had feedback wise on his photo is the same thing I'm going to tell you here, and that is I cannot see her face. I can see her nose, a little bit of her cheek, and that's it. And then his face is completely in shadow. So I see two bodies, but I don't see any expression. I don't see any detail in their expression. So that is something that's really important when you are doing portraits, is everything else comes secondary to your subjects, right? And your subjects are the people. So the biggest thing that you would want to do here is just change their pose, and have them, embracing a little bit more, having them do something with their hands. Their hands are just sitting there on their sides. What I tell my clients all the time, and people, especially clients my age that are millennials and can relate, we don't want any Ricky Bobbies, right? That gets them going every time. And then they get it. They're like, oh, okay. Like, you always want to have your clients do something with their hands, right? So that's the biggest thing, is just the pose doesn't work. Composition wise, slow shutter, you get the movement in the water. That is excellent. That is awesome. I love both I love the composition, I love the framing, I love the choice to do the slow shutter. Really solid there. But what I think I nailed pretty much everything I wanted to say just in that short stint, though. What would you have to add, Andre?
We're close to like a really good one. Like you said, the pose with the couple, we've already established that. And I mean, they're obviously not standing at the top, so they're chopped off at the knees, right? That's weird cropping place. So even though you didn't crop them in camera, they're still cropped in terms of being present in the frame. The composition, we could lose some of this composition on the right hand side. One, that bottom right area, there's nothing going on there. All the waves are happening toward the left, right? So it's basically just still water. The little tree piece is not adding any additional value. So pan to the left a little bit more, and in this case, tilt up, so we get more sky and the waves with the the shutter drag, right? And that would have been fantastic.
Right on. Great advice, buddy. Appreciate that. Steve, thank you so much for submitting this. What an amazing location. Seriously, that's super cool. All right, we got two more photos left. This next one comes from Ellie B. Chico, and she shot this session specifically to challenge herself with practicing shooting in mid-sun. This was taken with Canon 24-105. She used a 400-watt strobe on a cheetah stand with a mag ring and a Mag Mod XL mag sphere.
Nice.
Yeah. Man, I'm like I don't know why, I don't know if it's just my love for cars and automobiles, but the first thing I saw was the truck in the back of the frame by the windmill. So we need to remove that in post-production. But anyway, besides that, what are your thoughts here, Andre? I'm gonna let you start this time.
This scene and everything has the potential to be massive, right? One, we got the windmills, right, going on. We got this big dress. There's technically an opening inside of the windmills to be able to put your subject, and you almost did it. You needed to get low to the ground, let your subject rise up to the height of the windmills, use some compression, 70 to 200 or something like that, to pull those windmills in closer and make her just as big and impactful in the frame as those windmills for sure. Like that would have been fantastic. The road leading line does nothing for the frame. That huge rock that's back there does nothing for the frame. I would have laid down on the ground because I do that a lot, right? Would have laid down on the ground, 70 to 200, compressed her in that big dress, and then had the windmills leading directly into her.
Yeah, that's great advice because when you have her face, her head, her upper body getting lost in the busyness of those bushes right there, and she does get very lost there. And photographing her against that blue sky would definitely bring more attention to your subject, which again is the main subject of the photograph. And bringing more attention to her and the dress, so your eye doesn't wander as much in the frame. So, anything else to add, or does that sound pretty good to you?
Nah, I think it's good. Like literally, just getting down on the ground would have changed this image and lens selection because you probably
Yeah.
shot at more of a 70. I mean, as a closer to a wider frame, maybe like a 50, 35 anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, getting low to the ground, shooting that as close to 70 if you only had the 24 to 70 would have made this better. But 70 to 200 in that 85 range, step
Yep.
back, right? But that would have been phenomenal.
Right on. Cool deal. Thank you, Ellie. What a super awesome dress too. This is incredible, and I love the fat. I love just the flowiness of it. Looks like a really fun shoot. Um, all right, so for this last photo, Andre, this was a last minute submission, so you're gonna have to look at it on the feed here. So
Okay.
I didn't give it to you earlier, but this last photo here, this comes from Nikki Lister, and she captured this with a Nikon Z6 and natural light. So I don't know if it's pulled up for you yet. Let
Mhm.
me know when you can see it.
Yep, I can see it.
Perfect. What a yeah. This is some really cool subject. Some content right here. I mean, old cars, old kind of the older hairstyle vibes, but they're all tatted up. Very interesting choice to make it monochromatic. Very very cool. Very cool. I'm kind of analyzing this a little bit here. Give me a second.
Hmm.
If you see anything right away, Andre, feel free to jump in. But
I
um,
do.
okay, why don't you jump in then?
This image should have been horizontal. Shoot it horizontal. Get down to the level of the lights of the car, so you get the lights, you get the leading lines of the cars directly into them. Kind of tight on the kiss. If you're using something that has some compression, that will give you the lights in the front. It'll give you the subjects with the kiss. And again, I'm assuming the cars are lined up perfectly to the buildings in the back, but it would have led you right directly down that alley.
Yeah. hmm I will say though, I do appreciate the fact that she was able to, position them a little bit in the middle of those two buildings, so it wasn't like as distracting as it could have potentially been. So that was
Right.
a very good call. I agree. I think maybe shooting this horizontally would be better. Probably one thing I would honestly do, Mom, is probably crop it a little bit tighter. I think having the tops of those buildings, in my opinion, is a little unnecessary. I would even just crop a lot of that top portion of the image out, if we're being honest. But again, beauty's in the art or the eye of the beholder. So just what I would personally do. But what a unique twist and what a unique take on like a more traditional style photo that's also not traditional, with the two women and the two, the tattoos. And I mean traditional sense in um, what was like the norm to see, back in the day. So, um, very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool.
And so let me answer DJ's question. No, getting low, at least the way that I envision framing it, it wouldn't have the side mirror would not have blocked it any more than what it's already doing. I would have had them at the top third of the frame, right? I don't need the extra sky and stuff like that that's going on if I'm low. They're at the top of the frame. They're the ones that are kissing here. But we have the leading lines of the cars, as well as showing the vintage cars with the, using the lights on the cars to establish that it is an old car. Um, but it wouldn't have been blocking anything more than what it's already blocking in the frame.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, hey, super cool. That's gonna wrap us up then for our May image critiques. Andre, dude, thank you so much. That was very it was very eye opening, very enlightening. I loved the fact that you were so upfront and so honest and so transparent with your critiques. Before we announce the winner of the canvas print, I want to give you the opportunity, for those who maybe tuned in a little bit later, just for you to talk a little bit about any education content you have coming up or that's out there, or anything you want to share with the world about where people can learn more about from you and about you.
Yeah, guys. So, if you're not already following me, definitely follow me on Instagram, Andre Brown Photo. I mean, I'm Andre Brown Photo on all social media platforms, so you can always follow me there. I have my education platform, Boca Academy. We do have a group on Facebook as well, on top of the conference that we have coming up here in August, the Boca Photo Summit, happening August 12th to the 14th here in Atlanta. I did create a special code for you guys. Um, if you
Well,
use
that's
code
cool.
if you use code Sean in checkout, there's a discount. I think I what did I say? 150, I think, right? So
150. Wow. Okay.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
the heaviest discount. It's gonna be like that for 24 hours, and then it goes away like a pumpkin, just like Cinderella, right? It will go back to the
Heck
regular.
yeah.
But yeah, if you want to use that code 150 to sign up, for the actual conference, you can do so. And one thing that I did not tell Sean, which I
What's
will
that?
tell him now, I'm gonna give away a seat. Let's do it.
Really?
I'm gonna give away a seat. Let's do it.
Wow. Holy crap, guys. That is amazing. What we're going to do is we're going to do a random number picker.
I
And
did the
we
randomizer already. You just gotta share my screen. I've been
Oh,
taking
you
names the whole time.
you did? Oh my goodness. Okay. So basically how to well I can't share your screen, but I can share you.
There we go, right here. Share screen. Boom. Can
Oh,
everybody?
there it is. Hold on. There it is. Let me sign. I've actually never done this before. Give me 1 second. Let's figure out how to do this. Uh, Here we go. Okay, we can all. I think we can all see. Let me confirm that everyone can see. Yep, I think. Yep, we all can see. All right, you ready?
All right, random. Everybody that commented, I added their names. So if you were on the broadcast and you didn't comment, shame on you, right? We want participation. And I also included the names of everybody that entered photos as well. So um,
Nice.
it was it's funny. I hope Charles wins. That way, Charles has to pick somebody. He has to give it away some other place or whatever, since they'll be exhibiting at the show. So I'll put the pressure on you, Charles. But at the moment, we're gonna put the pressure to Google to make it happen. So
All right, let's see who this is.
let's see who we got.
And oh, that was close.
Oh,
Oh,
who is it? Oh,
Austin
Austin,
Alvarez,
Austin,
buddy,
Austin.
dude.
Congrats.
That is amazing. Holy crap, dude. That was so nice of you to give that away. Austin. Actually, I think Austin, if I remember correctly, I don't think he's too far from Atlanta. So that would be very convenient, actually.
Yeah, man, come on out. Just hit me up, Austin, and we can make that happen for you. Get you all situated with your registration. And again, everybody, if you use code Sean, you get $150 off of registration. The 150 is good for the next 24 hours. After that, again, turns back into a pumpkin. But we hope to see you in Atlanta in August.
Heck yeah, man. That is so freaking cool. Thank you so much for offering to give that away. As far as the canvas winner is concerned, which doesn't really seem as big of a deal now that now that you've given away your prizes. Don't get me wrong though, Pro Prince canvases are amazing, but I don't know if it's as amazing as a free seat at your conference. But the winner for that is David Droke. So David, if you're watching, message me, reach out to me. I'll get you that free canvas print from ProPrints. Congratulations. Andre, it was a pleasure hanging out with you this evening. Is there anything else you want to tell everyone before we sign off?
Oh man, I just thank you all for having me. I'm down to come back anytime. I love this stuff. I love the image critiques. I love being able to pour back into people. That's what helped me grow as a photographer. Really quickly. I remember 2017 being in the judging room in WPPI, and I saw some of the most phenomenal images that I ever seen come up on the screen, and the judges come back and they scored them below an award, right? So like an award is like 80 or above, and I'm like, what is
Right.
wrong with these people, right? And they started to give critiques, and you start to notice like, oh, I didn't see that before. I didn't see that before. Like a lot of this stuff was, just impact for me in the beginning, right? I wasn't even 2 years in at that time, right? Um, and then I remember leaving WPPI. That was my first year, and saying to myself, I'll never be a photographer that wins awards. I don't care nothing about none of that. Just show me the money, right? Um, WPPI was in February that year. 1 month later, I took a photo at a wedding. 2019, I entered it in the competition, came in second place overall in my category. That is
Wow.
this image here, right? And with the award banner on it and everything, right? So not only did it merit and I think he got like an 85, got like an 80, 84, 85 or something like that, right? Which is like silver distinction. I ended up winning second overall in my entire category. So you never know where you are until you are in a position where you're critiqued. You might be further along than what you think. There might just be little nuances. And even to this day, nobody can tell me anything that could have improved that image, right? And that's not to say this is the best. You know what I'm saying? Even when
Yeah.
I look at it, there's very little that I know that I could do to improve that image, and that's only because I was in that room, right? Um, but second overall, the picture that I lost to for first place, I laugh about it because it had Jesus in it, and I said, if I was going to lose to anybody, I would rather lose to Jesus. Like
Right.
who to lose to, right? So had it not been for Jesus, I would have won first place in that category that year. So submit, get critiques. Like people get bent out of shape about critiques and things of that
Mhm.
nature. I love that you guys are submitting, you're putting yourself out there so that people can tell you what their opinion is on the situation, right? Um, and yeah, it's their opinion, but you get enough of them together, you realize that you actually have a problem that you need to fix, right?
Right.
So be open to it and just have fun in the process. Have fun in the process.
Absolutely. That is some phenomenal advice. Sometimes, it is hard to, have your photos up for critique, but you got to do it because that's how you're going to get better. And that's the whole point of why we do these monthly critiques is to build a community and build, a solid foundation for all you guys on being better photographers. So, Andre, once again, want to thank you so much. Thank you for critiquing. Thank you for spending your evening with us and for donating those amazing prizes. And photographers, I want you to make sure that, as always, you stay classy, stay sassy, and be dope nasty. Have a good one, guys.